Strap in and be prepared.
Maybe I'll learn from your failures.
That is what you could do.
Yeah.
Interesting guests.
Kelly Graves, Mike Parker, Josh Pate, George Reiser, Ryan Lee, Yogi Roth, who said that Justin and I are smart.
Sharp opinions.
I think Dan Lanning sitting in his office going, you know what, fine, give us the toughest road to win the national championship. That's what it should be.
Oregon State in their baseball program is still operating from a position of strength, even if they're independent. But here they are in the College World Series.
And some smiles.
It's iconic.
We're not keeping score, but maybe we're keeping score.
The fastest 60 minutes in sports is on the air. It's Danny Havel.
When I wake up every morning, I say to myself, what can I do to make Baby J's life better today?
Justin Grossweiner.
Have I ever told you, Danny, that growing up I really loved ducks?
Danny and Justin starts now on Fox Sports Eugene and Newport.
Hello, neighbors, and welcome to the fastest 60 minutes in sports talk live from the Bigfoot Beverages Studios in Eugene and Newport. High top the Delta Triad, the Crystal Palace. This is the Danny and Justin radio program on Fox Sports Eugene and Newport, KNCU in Newport, 92.7 FM, the Oregon Man Clinic's hotline at 541-343-5673. The fastest 60 minutes in sports roars off the liftoff pad right now here for a Wednesday. Thanks for tuning in. You can follow us on Twitter and Blue Sky, Danny and Justin, spell out the and also on all the platforms. I finally got the verbiage right. The platforms that you pod off of, which is iHeart. So I just screwed it up again. iHeart, Podverse, Amazon, Apple. Who am I missing? YouTube. Help me out here. Spotify, True Fans, Podcast Addict, Fountain, the Podcast Index, wherever you go. You're there. And we're here. Thanks for tuning in. I'm Danny Halbert. Right over there is my tag team partner, my boy, Justin Grossweiner. We call him Baby J. What up, boy?
Well, it's Hump Day.
Hump Day. And it's also Young Concrete's birthday. Mateo.
I didn't know that.
Williangale's birthday.
Is he 21?
You know what? That's a great question.
Let
me see.
21?
Seems
like about the right age.
I think it could be. Every foundation needs concrete.
That's very true, and it's caught on.
Young Concrete. His dad nicknamed him that, though.
Yeah, and we facilitated that nickname to Yogi Roth, and therefore to the Big Ten Network.
And it, exploded from there.
I think we could say that we were the catalyst here.
That's beautiful. So how you doing, boy?
I'm doing all right.
Did you go for a walk today?
I just went for a walk.
You walked around the building?
I tried to. There's roofers, so I walked around half the building.
So they have kind of taken over all the parking spaces as well. When I pulled in, I could not go my regular route. I had to go spin around and then do a U-E and then do a three-point thing to get a parking spot. And I think I grabbed the last one here on this end of the building.
I think you did, because it is certainly – I'm not going to complain because that's not what I do. But I had to walk around half the building and not go my full route, which is usually what I do, which I enjoy. I'm a very person of routine, so having to be stopped in the middle of my routine was a little bit jarring.
So do you normally go for a walk around here?
I do sometimes.
Oh, okay. I'm not here all the time.
Yeah.
So you're here a lot longer than I am.
Sometimes I do. It's a nice little loop.
Okay.
Don't mind that. I think Mateo, by the way, is 21 years old. It doesn't have his actual birthday on Wikipedia, like the actual day, but it says he's 20. So I'm assuming they just don't know the day. I would imagine
he would be.
And so he's probably 21. He's a junior, right? So
yeah.
It would make
sense.
So
Young Concrete, if you're listening, if you want to call in, you can give us a call at 541-343-5673. Justin and I will sing you a happy birthday.
You have a good 21st birthday?
That's why you're taking me back. It was down in Medford. My brother, Tim, my oldest brother, Tim, was a bartender at a hibachi type restaurant called Shoji's. So, you know, where they have the tables and the flat top? Yeah, you know what it is.
Hibachi.
Well, okay. Well, yeah. I didn't know.
I
didn't know what it was.
I don't know.
So he was a bartender. And so I was with my older sister, Mary, and her husband, Matt. I was living in Ashland at the time. We drove to Medford. I wasn't driving. And I had not been someone who drank. Mm-hmm. I was not one of those kids, once I got to college, I was going to beer parties and stuff. When I was 21, that's the first time I actually drank. I got sideways.
So you just didn't have the experience?
No. I was singing Chicago songs, driving back down I-5, smoking little salty pretzels. I was trying to smoke a pretzel, according to my sister. You know those long, the Mr. Something, the long, thin ones. I was not driving. No. I was a mess.
Just for clarification.
I was a mess after that. So, what about your 21st?
It was good. I was working in Portland at the time, so I just moved from Alaska to Oregon, and I was living in Portland with my mom. And I was working at, I think I've told you about the taco restaurant that I worked at.
In fact, we have to have you make guacamole. My wife just made guacamole the other day, which is very good, but I told her that you're an aficionado, although you don't like guacamole.
80 avocados worth of guacamole in the morning every day. So, yes, I am. Maybe you could say I'm an aficionado. I'm not sure if I am.
No, I'm sure you are. But
I know
you
how to
you
do
don't
one
like
recipe really well.
All right, so continue your story. 21st birthday in Portland.
I was working at this taco restaurant, and my boss, Matt, who I'm still good friends with to this day, asked basically, I told him it was my birthday, and he said, hey, I want to make you work on your birthday, but I'm going to give you the day off after your birthday.
Oh.
So he was experienced, and he took me out, and we went to, it was so funny because he just didn't know kind of my personality super well at the time. I just moved there, and I just started working there. I ended up working there for about 4 or 5 years, but this was really early on. And he was expecting me to do what you did, which was just go all out and go super hard. And I didn't. I basically had a few beers. We went to like 2 or 3 different places.
So you crawled a little bit, but you didn't.
Yeah, we went to the place that was right next to us. And then we kind of, as I went throughout the years there, would go out after a work day and have a beer and stuff like that. So that was kind of the first time I'd done that. And then we went to, I went to a place down on Division, and I had like 3 beers total. And I remember at the end of the night, they were like so impressed because I didn't just
you didn't get messed up.
Yeah, and I was, there was a kind of like a group of us there, and I was the first person to turn 21, and there was about 4 or 5 others that did over the next few months, and every single one of them did what you did, and I did not do that because I don't know, I'm not a big drinker.
So that was a fun night, especially because I got to share it with my sister, and I don't remember half the night, and my brother. So it was kind of fun because it was
and I've never had a
thing.
night like that where I don't remember half the night.
Well, son, we have something we need to do with you then.
I've had some fun, but I've never had that happen.
There's no upside to that.
No.
And there's nothing good that happens at 2 a.m. But that's the story.
Neither here nor there.
That's right. And there are no photos, thank goodness. So on the program today, we are going to have the mayor of Rip City, Travis Demers, joining us. And a lot of interesting talk around the Blazers, and obviously with the reported trades and the offseason moves that the Blazers have already made, the draft.
A very particular former Blazer.
Right. Hong Yang-sun, by the way, just signed yesterday his rookie contract.
Are we doing Hong Janssen? Or are we going Young Hansen?
Young Hansen. Did I say Young Hansen? Hansen Young? Hansen Young. Young Hansen.
There you go. I think he did the other way.
Oh, did I?
Maybe. I don't know. Maybe I misheard you.
See, this is
we're clarify this with,
okay, you know what?
Travis,
that's
right?
It's going to go on my list right here in front of me of things that I need to make sure I say correctly, because I am going to mess this up now. I am. I'm going to mess this up.
You're right. When you brought it up the other day, that people are literally having a problem with this. It's not just us.
Young Hansen. And we have to say it that way. Okay, I've got it written down now, so I'm not going to mess it up. So there's that. I want to ask Travis about you're an encyclopedia when it comes to the NBA. I'm not. So I'm not going to, say I've done a bunch of deep research, but it's just a high-level question because I think Joe Cronin is, and I think you use the phrase, it's a Moneyball phrase, in the aggregate, is trying to build a team without a real superstar, and can you win a championship that way? And we want to reserve that for when we talk to Travis, right? But is it, and I want his opinion. Is that what he seems to think that Joe Cronin is doing, or the direction he's going? Because to me, it absolutely seems that way. They're not going out and making a big splash. They're not going out and getting the big name free agent right now. Now, could that change? Certainly. You got a smirk on your face.
I can't comment anything because it's going to open up a can of worms, and so we're just going to save it entirely for that segment because I have a very strong. I have an opinion.
You have a strong
there's
opinion.
Some interesting Blazers connections to the team that I'm thinking of.
Okay. So, also, is there going to be what other moves are going to be in the center position? So, DeAndre Ayton has been released.
He will no longer be dominating in Portland.
But the Blazers are paying him $25 million to play for somebody else.
But saving $10 million to do that.
Right. So is that addition by subtraction? And especially when it comes to the cap. And those are questions we're all going to ask Travis.
And it will be. The NBA, all about fit. That's what I'll say.
Okay. No. And to me, it's like it'll be very interesting in a very tight center market
100%.
Where Ayton's going to end up.
Correct. He immediately becomes, I believe, the best center available. If not
I think so.
First or second.
I mean, there's not a whole lot. As you take a look at the free agents that are out there, there's Al
either
Horford.
Him or Al Horford.
Right, Al Horford, who can swing between a forward and a center position. But then there's a lot of forwards out there.
Moritz Wagner. I mean, it's bleak. It's really bleak. So if you're a team out there, you could definitely talk yourself into DeAndre Ayton, for sure. You could look at that resume, and there's some question marks for sure about his personality and whatnot. But
there's always a lot of guards out there.
There's going to be a team out there that will talk themselves into DeAndre Ayton, 100%.
And he was oft injured near the end of his stint with Portland, which was kind of a knock with him in Phoenix as well before the Blazers got him. He was broken a little bit, kind of like Zion Williamson has been.
Right, well, physically talented, and he just never seemed to pull it together. He also, by far, has the funniest moment. During his time there, he had the funniest moment, of course, which was when he couldn't make it to a game because of the icy roads. And if you've ever lived in Portland, you understand that if there is ice on the roads,
there you aren't going anywhere.
You'll never be able to get anywhere. So
you are walking.
It was by far the funniest moment in the last few years, which was that moment.
All right, so, friends, that's what we have coming up on the program. I also want to talk about some of the traditions in sport, because we're getting into that time, and of course, the All-Star game coming up for the Major League Baseball players, and the lineups have already been set, but there's still a couple of weeks away from that. But it just kind of got me thinking. I'm trying to get myself into fall mode already. But some of the great traditions in sport, and all across different sports, and it could be a chant, or it could be an entrance, or it could be something that happens during the game. So I just center on a couple of those. I
certainly think that the franchises that we root for have some very well-known traditions that have caught on, I would say.
Yeah, and so we might open up the phones for that if you want it. 541-343-5673. By the way, for all the P1s out there, the committee has met, and I think the consensus is that if you want a nickname as a caller, you have to call in at least 10 times a month.
High bar. But it's
a high bar.
High but fair.
So, and we don't open the phones up that much. So that is a very high bar. So you have to listen. So that's what we're going to set. And we will give nicknames to callers, but you have to call in at least 10 times per month. So we only do 20 shows per month. So that's half the shows. So there you go.
Oregon football, by the way, got another commit today. Tommy Toffee out of San Francisco.
The lineman?
Yeah, the lineman. And it's kind of funny on Oregon Twitter. There's been a whole thing about the Huskies were ranked ahead. I think they were just ahead of Oregon. And not in terms of like per recruit rating and all that, but just in terms of the total overall ranking. They were 23 and the Ducks were 24 or something like that. And this, of course, now has brought the Ducks to 16, which jumps the Huskies. So everyone on Oregon Twitter is really happy.
And as what did our buddy Jerry Mack say?
I did not. I haven't seen what he said. I just
no. He just stay off Twitter.
Oh, right. I bet so. I didn't see his comment, but yes, he did say that the other day. I love Twitter. I love to see what people are actually saying.
I get a lot of information off of Twitter.
All these social media accounts.
You definitely have to filter it. You definitely 100%. Have to filter it. Yes. So, by the way, our good friends over at the Back Nine are holding a special through, I believe it's the 6th. So you have an opportunity to get a membership at a discounted price. So our good friends at the Back Nine, it is 24/7 golf and other sports if you want to bring the kids down and kick the soccer ball into the big screen and such. But great for golfers because it gives you the true spin technology, really gives a true look to what your golf ball does. 24/7 access, and they're giving you a discount membership if you go now between this period that I'm talking right now and the 6th. Okay, so go to Back Nine Golf and find Eugene and go ahead and go through all the scrolls, and you can figure out pretty quick. But Travis and Katie down there in the Sheldon Plaza right next to Safeway have opened up a great opportunity for especially folks now as we get into, well, through the summer when it's too hot. You don't want to go out and play golf outside, get the sun beating down on you. You can go inside, nice cool air conditioning, and there's snacks, there's beverages, everything's open for you. So the Back Nine Golf, our good friends down there in the Sheldon Plaza. We will be out, speaking of golf, at Laurelwood tomorrow for our first show with Nick and the crew at the Laurelwood Golf Course. up there high atop the hills above the University of Oregon. We'll be there from 2 to 3 tomorrow with our first program. And we'll also be on YouTube with that program. Fingers crossed.
No need to fingers crossed. I think we're going to make it happen.
Okay. Well, that's what I'm leaning on you on. So you want to do some news and notes? We're really late, but let's blast through them. Mine are pretty short, actually. So the NHL and NHLPA international officials have finalized a deal agreed upon long ago to send players to the 2026 Milan Cortina Olympics. So now there's going to be NHL players, international players, all of them can go now and play in the Olympic Games. This will be the first time since 2014 that they've been able to do this. The groups negotiated the agreement and announced it initially last year. The problem has always been with the Olympics, it's right in the middle of the NHL season. Mm-hmm. So this has been a big thing, and so the NHL players are going to be able to play for their respective countries in the Olympics.
This just came out today. So the NBA has adjusted Greg Popovich's career record. So now some wins that were the wins and losses from last season after his stroke on November 2nd have been credited to the new head coach for the Spurs, Mitch Johnson, from 24-25 season. And now he remains the winningest coach in league history, 53 wins ahead of Don Nelson's 1,335 with 1,365, of course. Or excuse me, my math's wrong there. But anyways, his percentage winning all time goes off up from 62.1 to 62.8. So this is agreed upon between the Spurs and the NBA. So it seems like this is actually what he wanted, and which is, in my opinion, a good thing.
His final record, by the way, 1,390 wins against 824
there we
losses.
Go. And I have that written down.
Nope, you got it.
Couldn't find it.
There you go. So Kevin Pillar just announced on Foul Territory that he's retiring.
Well,
he was an outfielder.
He's been retired for a while now.
For a while. He's been on TV for all season. But he played out 13 MLB seasons, the first 6+ of which he spent with the Toronto Blue Jays, who just pounded the Yankees yesterday in Canada Day. Pillar most recently played for the Rangers. He was heavily leaning toward retirement last year, but after an end to the 2024 season that frustrated him, a successful offseason surgery, he thought he was going to stay in. He's only 36 years old, but he said, nope. They wanted to sign him to a minor league deal to the Rangers, but he said, I'm just going to retire.
Well, if I was only going to be able to go to the Rangers, I might decide to retire as well. Glove first guy as well at 36 years old. Phenomenal fielder. Fun to watch, but it makes sense at this point. Speaking of gloves, the Diamondbacks have banned a season ticket holder after interference, multiple offenses over the course of, it sounds like, many seasons. So a fan basically during Monday night's game against the Giants, as they were leading 3-2 in the 8th inning, Christian Coss hit a long fly ball to left field, and before Tim Tawa, the left fielder, could make a catch, the fan reached and looked like over the fence with his glove and made the play and the catch, by the way. He went viral for this. Went on Arizona Sports 98.7 FM and said that he had been ejected 3 times and reviewed multiple times, 9 to 10 times over the course of the years. And so the Diamondbacks have said that because of his behavior, he's going to be banned for the 2025 season. He is going to be allowed, by the way, to get another season ticket package in 2026.
Fun fact, Tim Tawa, the son of OSAA reporter
there we go.
John Tawa.
I know who that is.
There you go.
Wow,
so that's his son.
Cool connection
yeah,
there.
We talked to John quite a bit. By the way, we talk a lot about, contracts and, the payment, and we just talked about DeAndre Ayton getting paid $25 million for the Blazers to go play for somebody else. Well, after trading Julio Jones and Matt Ryan in consecutive off seasons, the Atlanta Falcons are forced to wait a few years before they could be active players in free agency again. The team hit a home run by signing safety Jesse Bates in 2023. However, Atlanta has fumbled the bag again in 2024, guaranteeing $100 million to Kirk Cousins. Here are some of the contracts they need to pay off. Grady Jarrett, $4.1 million. Justin Simmons, $3.1 million just this next year. Yeah. And the reason I bring this up is I'm going to take a left turn. New York Mets are still paying Bobby Bonilla $1.19 million. That happened yesterday. It started in 2011. It was
yesterday? That was Bobby Bonilla Day?
That was Bobby Bonilla Day. It was yesterday. And it will continue until...
Isn't it like 2031?
2035.
2035. Okay. I was going to ask.
He gets $1 million.
At least they've embraced it. I think that's been the biggest thing, is that they realized that they messed up at some point. And I don't think he did anything for the Mets, by the way.
He didn't. But it's good for him. Honestly,
of course.
Good for Bobby Bonilla Day.
And the
July
deferred
1st.
contracts have lived on. And
Yes,
in my
they
opinion,
have.
they've become a big problem in Major League Baseball. Not that I'm not pro player, but I think that some of these teams are able to do it more than others,
Yeah.
you might say. So speaking of baseball, the Women's Pro Baseball League is going to hold tryouts at Nationals Park next month as the league moves closer to its launch. So they're aiming to play the first season with 6 teams starting in spring of 2026. And the tryouts are going to be held August 22nd to 25th. So if you know someone out there, go try out. Apparently there's 600 players that have registered for a 4-day camp. And there's going to be drill sessions, athletic performance testing, and then player evaluations at the Nationals Youth Baseball Academy. And then cuts are going to happen on August 25th after a live game. So I'm pretty down with this. I think this is cool.
So what's interesting to me is that there is a professional softball league. I'd be interested to see if there's any softball players that would transfer their skills to baseball.
It's a completely different sport.
It is.
You're timed up for something different.
But
I think it's interesting. The WPBL was founded by Justine Siegel, by the way, who was the first woman to coach for an MLB team. And when it debuts, it will be the first pro league for women since the All-Girls Professional Baseball League, which was immortalized in what movie?
A League of Their Own.
There you go. And
There's no crying in baseball.
one of the greatest quotes of all time. Got it to Tom Hanks.
Tom Hanks. There's no crying in baseball. Are you crying? All right, there we go. The mayor is next. Travis Demers. I think Lawson's going to be on the phone, too.
He might be.
Maybe we just talk to Lawson for like 10 minutes, and Travis can like clean the house, or get another bowl of Cheez-Its together, or granola, or whatever he does, being the dad
It'll
that
be
he
great.
is. Yeah, it will be. The mayor of Rip City next. Got a lot to talk about with the Blazers and the NBA. Coming up next on the Danny and Justin Radio Extravaganza on Fox Sports Eugene and Newport. Tomorrow, live at Laurel Road Golf Club in Eugene from 2 to 3. The fastest 60 minutes goes on the road every Thursday throughout the rest of the summer out at Laurelwood. So come out and join us for a beverage, maybe have a little dinner, put around, hit a golf ball. Yeah, we'll have some fun stuff going on out there. Let's head on over to the Oregon Man Clinic's hotline at 541-343-5673 and welcome in the mayor of Rip City, our good friend Travis Demers. You can follow him on Twitter at Travis Demers. It's pretty easy. Live from the Bigfoot Beverages studio in Eugene and Newport. It's the Danny and Justin radio program. So, Travis, you've got the kids. So, Lawson and Lincoln are rolling around out there, but they're involved in the iPad with Lucas the Spider that you said. So, how was parenting before an iPad?
Oh, man. I don't know. So, they have, like, this period of, like, they get, like, an hour of tablet time.
Okay.
Just so they're not, like, glued to the screens all day.
Right.
Even though, well, maybe not when I was 5, but when I was, 9, 10, I was sitting in my room playing Super Mario Brothers and stuff like that quite a bit. So, but I don't want them to be like that, and their mom doesn't either. So, they get an hour or so of tablet time, and then we'll go outside and play with water balloons and stuff. But
Nice.
I don't know. I feel like when I was a kid, I was more independent.
Yeah.
Maybe because I wasn't used to screens. But I'm really trying to not have them completely relying on that. Like, they don't get them in the car. If we go out to eat, they don't get them then.
Good
other people
parenting
can parent
skills,
whatever they
dude.
want, but, like, if they have to have that to be chill, that's my problem.
A-plus parenting skills right there. You get that across the board. Well done, young man.
Right.
Well done. So how's the yard, by the way? Are you keeping it trimmed?
Yeah, I'm actually going to mow the lawn when they go out and play with water balloons. I haven't done any of the weeding stuff. I need to do that. I figure, it's already July, and I might just,
Don't water it. It won't grow.
What's that?
Don't water it. It won't grow.
Yeah, and then the rest of the grass will die, which is, I don't really want that either. But especially like in the summertime, like when it starts to get to this time of year, there's part of my grass that really dies quick. So I think I'll wait till next spring before I really get into, the details of trying to make it look pretty. Right now, as long as it's alive and, manageable, then I'll be good for the rest of this year.
All right, buddy. Travis Demers joining us, the mayor of Rip City. Let's talk a little Portland Trailblazers. Yang Hansung is the newest Blazer, signed his rookie deal. And when I texted you, you said I had never been as shocked as I was when I heard that pick. So
Yep.
Now that it's kind of settled in, now that you've kind of been able to contemplate and reflect, talk about your thoughts on this pick for the Blazers, who were in he was in their crosshairs for a couple of years, we find out.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting because we were sitting there and, we've been talking and, I've been talking with all these other people trying to figure out, what players would fit and learn about all these guys. And it turns out it really didn't matter because this was their guy. This was their guy all along. Joe Cronin said he had hoped he came out last year. I don't know, maybe he would have been a second-round pick last year. But for him to go at 16 at the time, we're like, what is going on here?
Mm-hmm.
He wasn't mocked any higher than 35. Well, according to a bunch of reports, it sounds like Brooklyn might have taken him or potentially even Minnesota with the very next pick, and that if they move back any further than that, he might not have been available. They did pick up an additional first-round pick and a couple of seconds in the future, so they got some other assets. But, the more that I see highlights, that's all it is, highlights. I've seen a couple of full-game clips and things like that. He's very advanced with his skills. I mean, he just turned 20 the day after the draft. He's got the size. He's not skinny. He'll have to learn the physicality of the NBA game, but it really feels like his skill set, with the exception of his shooting, is really advanced. And last year, and I guess it was this year, the 24-25 season on his Chinese team, he played 35 minutes a night. So, there are all these things that lead to really good potential for him. It's all it is right now is potential, but I can see where they were going with that. They really think if he pans out, he could be a home run.
And I'll just preface this by saying I know nothing, but the more that I watch highlights of him, like you said, they're highlights, but you kind of can talk yourself into it. You can sit there and say, hey, I see a off the backboard self alley-oop to himself,
right.
Where he
good passer,
exactly.
All that, yeah.
So I guess the question is, Travis, his potential, and people are kind of likening it to a Jokic. What do you think? How do you think that fit would potentially be with the core that the Blazers have at this point?
Well, we knew that whoever they drafted or whoever they brought in, somebody was going to have to come off the bench. They have a core of 5 guys. They can all be a starting lineup, so somebody's going to have to come off the bench. And I would imagine, opening night in October, Donovan Clingan will be the starter. But we'll just have to kind of see how he develops. Because to your point about the comparisons to Jokic, I think a lot of that comes in with the passing and maybe the touch around the rim. He doesn't have the shooting right now. And obviously he's not as developed as Jokic is right now. Jokic is a 3-time MVP and champ. But the bones are there. And the passing ability, I mean, you watch some of those highlights. I mean, it's unbelievable what his vision looks like. So to have an additional playmaker on the floor with a team right now that really needs to find a way to generate offense. They're not a great shooting team. So to have somebody who can be a playmaker like that and, work with the off-ball movement, I think that's really important.
And the Blazers and a lot of other teams got to see him up and close and personal in Chicago for the NBA Draft Combine. They also took him in for a visit. And it sounds like he basically played really well. And, of course, we got to see it as well. But does that kind of just speak to how important those in-person visits are, where there can be players that sometimes you look at them on video and you kind of aren't sure, but then you see them in person, and then all of a sudden you kind of view them in a totally different way?
Yeah, I think that's really important. And they brought him in for an earlier workout. I don't remember who was in the workout with him, but I know that wasn't really the target of the media and the fans. It was somebody else, but it turns out he was the Blazers' target. And the fact that they did their due diligence, they made multiple trips to China to see him. This was not we saw him once or twice and we like his skill set. They really put in the resources to make sure that he could be the guy. And it's funny, the day he was introduced, was that on Friday, I saw Joe Cronin after the press conference, and I said to him, how did you keep him under wraps for so long? It just kind of gave me this look like, I don't know, man. To me, that's as impressive as anything, because in this day and age, where you can, if scouts are there, people are going to notice. And technology and social media, to keep your interests under wraps like that, it's remarkable that they were able to do that.
Travis Demers, the mayor of Rip City, joining us on the Danny and Justin radio program. Fox Sports Eugene and Newport, out there in Newport at 92.7 FM, KNCU, and joins us on the Oregon Man Clinics hotline at 541-343-5673. So jumping off of that, Travis, is Joe Cronin just kind of like a mad scientist in the lab trying to build something? Because when I take a look, and Justin and I just had this debate real quick because I just threw the question out to him because Justin's my encyclopedia on the NBA. When has there been an NBA team that's won a championship without a true superstar? And it seems like Joe Cronin is trying to build, and I'll use the word aggregate, like no one big star, one big focal point, but trying to really get strong at every single position. Am I on the right track?
I think you are. And to answer that question, I don't know if Justin mentioned this, but the only team in my lifetime that I could think of that won a title not without a Hall of Famer, but without a true superstar was Chauncey Billups' Pistons.
Ding, 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 ding. You said it exactly what he said.
Good. We're on the same page.
Yeah.
Because, look, Chauncey Billups is a Hall of Famer, but he wasn't a superstar, especially at that point. You know, he really didn't become that guy that, you know, everybody looked at until they won that title, and he was the Finals MVP, and they went back to the Finals again and got to a Game 7 the next year. They didn't have that dude that you could give the ball to and get out of the way, and he's going to make a play. The Blazers don't have that guy right now. And I think until somebody develops into that guy on this roster, or maybe that doesn't happen, I think that's how you have to do it. And, yes, the Thunder won a championship with, you know, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander being that guy. Do they win the title if he's not quite that guy? I don't know. It's hard for teams to do that, but what we have seen is that depth really matters. Both teams that got to the finals this year had incredible depth. And if you're able to play great defense and figure out how to maximize your offense, even without a true superstar, you got a shot.
And I think there's some interesting connections between that 04 Pistons team, of course, the head coach Chauncey Billups and Rasheed Wallace, who came over from the Blazers, as well as, I think, a defensive identity. Of course, that team is known as one of the best defensive teams of all time.
And Chauncey wants that in this team.
Exactly,
right.
And that's what they did, especially in that second half. They were one of the best defensive teams in the NBA. Just jumping off from the Blazers for a second, of course, there's a big ex-Blazer out there that had some big news. So the largest buyout in the history of the NBA was Bison Dele in 2000 for $31 million. So Damian Lillard's being bought out for $113 million by the Bucks. And he's going to make $23 million for the next 5 years doing nothing. So I'm just curious what you think. In your opinion, what lies ahead for the future of Dame? Does he sign with the team this season to rehab, or does he just remain a free agent for the foreseeable future?
Well, first of all, sign me up for that deal. I'll take 1% of that.
I want me some of that.
Why not? But for Dame, it's interesting because there are reports, and again, this is just reports. I haven't talked to him. I'm never going to talk to him about this, but the reports are that Milwaukee was not willing to let him come home and rehab and be around his kids. I don't know how true that is, but this really gives I've seen the term irresponsible and reckless from Milwaukee's perspective. I don't quite see it that way, but I think this is kind of the best-case scenario for everybody because the Bucks are trying to compete and save face with Giannis. Mm-hmm. And they're doing that. They replaced Brook Lopez with Miles Turner. You know, they brought in, you know, a couple of different guys to help get that team to, you know, a competitive level again in a wide open Eastern Conference. Mm-hmm. For Dame, this gives him freedom now. He doesn't have to sign with anybody. He's got an Achilles tear. And I don't know a team that would really be willing to sign him right now because you don't know what's left in the tank. You don't know how long that rehab is going to take. Is he going to be able to play in March of this year? Probably not. Is he going to play in the 26-27 season? I think it's more likely. So for him, he really gets to just focus on himself and his rehab. And I know it was really hard for him to be 2,000 miles away from his kids. Him and I talked about that a few times. And, you know, after I got divorced, and being on the road, him and I had a conversation in Milwaukee last year just about the challenges about being away from your kids. And for him, living in another city than your kids, it was really, really hard for him. So he gets a year when his oldest is 7 and his twins are 5 to be able to be dad and rehab and get his mind right, because it really wasn't. From that summer when he was going through his personal stuff and the trade and all of that, he hasn't been himself in a couple of years.
Right.
He's starting to get there last year. So now he could take a year and not just reset physically and reset mentally. And I think that's as important for him as anything. So I could be wrong, but I don't see him signing with anybody this year. This time next year we're probably having a different conversation. But I would be surprised to see him on a roster this year.
Well, Travis, and speaking of signings, there's some breaking news that is just coming down the wire right now. And I know you're not on your phone because you're talking to us, but Baby Jay's got it right here.
So this is from Shams, just now breaking.
Shams.
DeAndre Ayton has signed with the Los Angeles Lakers. So what do you think about that?
I think it's about as unsurprising as you can get, right? They needed a center.
Yeah.
DeAndre Ayton needed a home. Yeah, I mean, I think that's been telegraphed since the second he got cut. Does it say what the money was?
$34 million, I believe, for 2 years.
Plus the 25 the Blazers are
Oh, sorry,
giving him.
$34 million. Yeah. I think it's just a one-year contract from what I understand.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, look, he gave $10 million back to the Blazers in this situation here. I'm pulling it up as we're talking here.
Yeah. So you can see it through. That's a lot of
30.
iPads.
Yeah.
$34 million.
That's pretty wild.
You know what? I'm sorry.
Year.
That's a little obscene for somebody who's been a little bit broken. And listen, DeAndre was great for the Blazers. I mean, he did a lot of great things. But at the same time, I reckoned him to kind of like Zion Williamson, who a lot of great talent, a lot of great upside, but never has really reached that potential, that ceiling that he could have.
Yeah, the thing with DA is that, like, he believes he's a max guy. He's not. That's just not who he is. He can be a good defensive player when he puts in the effort. He is a fantastic mid-range guy. Mm-hmm. He really is. And he is a complementary piece. A starter, for sure, and a very good starter. But when you put him on the floor with two guys who have to have the ball in their hands, with LeBron and Luka, DA is the guy that needs the ball in his hands to be happy. He wants plays drawn up for him. And I don't know if you guys noticed it, but this year, he would come out and have 6 quick points to start a game. Mm-hmm. And then some games he would have like 4 the rest of the night. And he would start out 3 for 3 or 3 for 4 and then go like 1 for 6 the rest of the night. And they wanted to get him engaged early. And he has to be engaged to be effective. And you could see on the nights that he wasn't. But when he was fantastic.
Yeah.
So the question that I have for DA and why I don't necessarily think I question this fit, but how engaged can he be when he is very clearly not the number 1 or number 2 option, and on some nights, might not be the number 3 option, especially because you have Austin Reeves.
Right.
So is he going to be the 4th option on a team, and can he be happy about that? And my whole thing with DA, if he was to come back to the Blazers, if he came back, he had to be your starter or you weren't going to get enough out of him. So I think the Blazers did the right thing by waiving him because they saved another $10 million. They didn't have to bring in any bad money back. They didn't have to attach any assets. And that $25 million expires at the end of this year. So it's a good opportunity for him. The Lakers get a center, and the Blazers can just move on without having to take anything bad back and focus on their youth. I think it's good for everybody, but it's going to be fascinating to see that down in L.A. now.
Yeah, and there's been some interesting stuff going on with LeBron recently, with Rich Paul basically saying he was going to sit back and wait to see what their moves were. Brian Windhorst came out and said that the Lakers have been essentially treating him like an expiring contract, and so there's been speculation, hey, is LeBron a trade piece maybe for the first time in his career? But he's still obviously LeBron James, and now this move seems to be going toward maybe keeping him on the team, I guess. Like, what do you think happens now with LeBron? Like, does this change anything for, like, what you think LeBron was going to do? Or is this still all just, like, Luka timeline? They're just planning for Luka now, and we're going to deal with LeBron for the next season and see what happens?
Well, I think the Lakers have shifted to Luka being the centerpiece of the future, right? And, with Kobe, they kept him around until the end of time, and they let him kind of dictate things. And when he retired, the team was garbage, and they were bad in his last year or two after his Achilles tear, and I don't think they want to see that happen. So for them now to be able to build around Luka, what does that mean for LeBron? And is this team competitive enough to be able to win a championship? I don't think so. I don't think they have enough depth. I think they've got a lot of star power and can win, 50 games in the regular season. But to me, this is not a team that can win in the playoffs. And is that something that LeBron wants to stick around for after this year? And I wouldn't be surprised if a year from now he finds himself somewhere else. But you're right. They're not looking at him like he's the guy that's going to win us a championship. They're looking at Luka as the future and the guy that they're building around.
Travis Demers joining us. You can join us on Twitter at Travis Demers, and he joins us pretty regularly here on the Danny and Justin radio program on Fox Sports Eugene and Newport. One last question for you. Is Joe Cronin pretty much pat now, you think? Or is he going to go after maybe a 4 somewhere in free agency? Like there's Chris Boucher out there. There's Jonathan Kuminga. There's some big names out there, but there's some next tier guys down because it seems like, again, Joe Cronin wants to build this as an aggregate, not going after a superstar. Are all the chess pieces kind of in place now, you think, or is there one more move going on?
Well, I mean, it's still July 2nd, right? Mm-hmm. The reported Drew Holiday deal has not been finalized yet. They are one guaranteed roster spot short of the requirement. They have 13. They need 14. So there is going to be something else that they have to do, whether it's now or sometime during the season. They do still have the mid-level exception left. And if they are clearing house of veterans like we've seen with Ayton and Simons, Jeremy Grant's still on the team. So I think there are still some questions as we're only, 2 days into the new league year. Sometimes these things happen in mid-late July. Sometimes they happen later on than that. So I think he has to make some other move somewhere to get the active roster to 14 sometime in the next, between now and February. I just don't know how that's going to happen. I don't think they're going to saddle themselves with any long-term deals or long-term money or make a trade for bad money coming back. So they'll do something, but I'm not really sure what direction that's going to be.
All right, well, we'll be watching along with you. Does Laska want to say bye to us, or is he, involved in the iPad right now?
Well, I've heard him for the last, 7 minutes yelling, Dad! He hasn't come up here yet, so...
Okay.
We're still good.
All right, buddy. Well, we'll let you go. Go water the lawn. Have some, goldfish or whatever you do in the afternoon with the kiddos. We always appreciate your time and your insight.
Thanks, guys. Thanks for having me.
All right, there he goes. The mayor of Rip City. It's Travis Demers joining us on Danny and Justin live from the Bigfoot Beverages studio in Eugene and Newport. As we come back, what's one of your favorite traditions? I've got one. I know you've got one.
I have several.
All right, we'll talk about those. So it could be anything. It could be an entrance. It could be during the game. It could be after the game. We'll talk about that when we come back. Danny and Justin rolls on here, live for a hump day. Fox Sports. Clayton Kershaw goes for 3,000 strikeouts in his career, only the 4th left-hander to do it in Major League Baseball. 20th overall. Just needs 3 Ks tonight as the Dodgers are in play. And there was a little consternation on social media because the national broadcast, I think it's ESPN, is going to have the Cubs and the Guardians on instead of Clayton Kershaw hitting a milestone. A pretty important one as well. Only the 20th pitcher overall. And again, the one that shocked me a little bit, only the 4th lefty.
Well, and not only that, it seems like it could be one of those records that not a lot of guys actually ever get again. Just because of the way starting pitchers are used,
well,
and guys don't go into evening
Do you
games.
realize he started in 2013?
Yeah.
He's been 12 years as a pitcher.
No, he's been around for a long time at this point, and he's been one of the best pitchers, maybe the best pitcher of his generation. It's on a short list with maybe Scherzer and Justin Verlander, guys like that. But I'm a little surprised as well, and we're Cubs fans, so I always love seeing the Cubs play the Guardians. Gives me some good memories, but certainly a game that I wouldn't expect to be playing over the 3,000th strikeout for Clayton Kershaw.
Yeah, and that kind of goes to, though, the individual versus the game itself. And obviously there's a lot of...
They're playing the White Sox. So.
Well, okay, that's right. So, I mean, it's like kind of, he's going to get his 3 strikeouts. It's not like there's, he needs 10 strikeouts to get to 3,000.
Exactly.
And can he do that? So, I mean, there's a lot of storylines with the Guardians/Indians and the Cubs, obviously, with the Cubs winning their last national or world championship against the Guardians in that epic 7-game series that they had. And so there's a lot there. There's a lot more storylines against Cleveland, Chicago versus what's going on. So I could see why
I get what you're
that.
saying. I mean, the game is going to be on MLB Network for those trying to tune in for Clayton Kershaw's 3,000
it's history.
strikeout. But
Love
it's not
history.
ESPN.
Yeah, no, it's not ESPN. So live from the Bigfoot Beverages Studios in Eugene and Newport, Danny and Justin here. Thanks again for all those folks over in Newport on 92.7 FM, KNCU. The Bald-Faced Truth coming up next here right after our program at the Oregon Man Clinics hotline at 541-343-5673. Once again, thanks to the mayor of Rip City, Travis Demers, for joining us.
And just want to clarify some of those numbers on DeAndre Ayton as some more information
with the Lakers.
Come out. So he's going to be making $34 million total between what the Lakers and Blazers are paying him. So it's going to be around $9 million.
$9 million Lakers are playing.
He also is signing a 2-year deal with a player option for the
so he's
next
got a
3
little
seasons.
longevity. That's what he wanted. He wanted another extension. So I threw out at the top of the program, and I was just thinking about this as we've only got a couple of minutes left in the program. Some of the great traditions. So as a fan, you go to a place and, Oregon with shout in the third quarter of football games, and shouts everywhere. It's in basketball, baseball, softball. It's all of it. Shout is everywhere at Oregon. But some of the other traditions in sport that I think kind of make it the fan experience and something that people look forward to and something that's handed down generation to generation. I mean, the one that immediately comes to my mind, obviously, and I'm sure it comes to your mind as well, is the 7th inning stretch at Wrigley Field. And take me out to the ball game.
The thing is, it has not just been the 7th inning stretch at Wrigley Field. Now it's turned into every team does their 7th inning stretch. Which I think is
great.
Exactly, but that's what I'm saying. That's how iconic that is. I mean, those are the celebrations I think you have to think about. The stuff that one team started doing it, and then every other team decided, like, oh, no, we have to do this too. The other one I think is related to our show, the opening from until like a week ago, which was the introductions for the Chicago Bulls.
Right.
And now every team does that. Every single team
does the big sizzle thing,
pro.
The lights go down, the flashing thing goes around. Yeah, I agree with that. So there's a couple of ones that I love, and I got to experience in real time, which maybe makes me one of those sports fans that has been lucky in their lives. But one of them is in Auburn. Before football games at Jordan-Hare Stadium, they release the eagle from way atop, and the eagle flies and swoops down into the stadium before the game starts, and that's where War Eagle comes from. Okay. It's a bald eagle that flies down, and it's really, really cool. And 80,000 people are going out of their minds when it happens.
That is pretty cool. Another one, the Lambeau Leap, which, again,
there you go.
Every team does that now. Every player will, not literally every player, but every team has players that do that. And then another one that I think is really fun, I love the torch in the Olympics. I love how the torch ceremony where you're just passing the torch and then there's somebody that's the final torch bearer. I love that one.
And the one that, again, college football is Script, Ohio. The tuba player dashing back out and dotting the I on Ohio is pretty cool as well. So so think about those tonight. And we might bring this up again tomorrow when we're out at Laurelwood, but it's time for Dad Joke.
Oh, a joke!
I got fired from the bank today. A woman asked me to check her balance, so I pushed her.
Dad jokes!
Nick Sams from Laurelwood just said Dyer was down.
Dyer was down.
I don't know if that's because I brought up Auburn. That's so I think it's I just triggered Nick at Laurelwood.
And every other Oregon fan.
So where should a dog never go shopping? Never, ever go shopping.
Sometimes I feel like if I had more time on these.
So a cat, this applies to a cat as well. Mm-hmm. A flea market.
Never. You don't want that.
Never, ever go shopping at a flea market if you're a furry animal. So out tomorrow. We are out in the wild. Justin and I will be out at Laurelwood. Come up and join us from 2 to 3. A little bit before, a little bit after. We might hang out for a little bit. It's Justin's last show for a while. He's heading out to the great wilds of Chicagoland. So we'll send them off in style at Laurelwood tomorrow. Thanks for tuning in, my friends. God bless. Put a smile on your face. Someone else's. They deserve it. So do you. For Justin, I'm Danny. Peace.